Greetings everyone and welcome to another episode of Modeling on the Fly with 3ds Max, where we continue the long and arduous task of building this AT-AT Walker-like vehicle. It's very similar to the AT-AT Walkers used in the film Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, but it's not exactly like them. That's how we describe it. Now, this is a special episode, because with me this evening is my very good friend, the lovely Jamianne. How you doing?
I'm doing all right tonight.
And we're all going to have to cut Jamianne a little bit of slack. See, she's here to kind of tag along with Modeling on the Fly, to give me some company, because truth be told, guys, I get lonely. I'm sitting here, I'm modeling, there's just me and a bunch of polygons, and the polygons aren't very talkative. So I've brought Jamie along to help keep me company and keep me enthused. But she's a little stage fright this evening, I think. So she may not pipe up too much, but I figure what we'll do is if she doesn't speak enough, I'll just start picking on her lack of Star Wars knowledge, and eventually everything will just kind of work itself out, or at least I think it will. One thing, though, I did want to make a quick announcement. I got a PM not so long back from a user by the name of Ranger Bob, who sent me some great reference images of the studio model of the AT-AT Walker available over at modelermagic.com. And there's like 200 or so of these things. They're great photos, most of them anyway. There's a few that are kind of out of focus and like, okay, yeah, see, like right here. This is not the best photo in the world, but these are all very great photos, lots of really, just rich reference. Be sure to jump over to modelermagic.com and take a look at these for yourself. So tonight we are going to continue work on the head of the AT-AT Walker-like creature, vehicle thing. So let's see, if I remember where we dropped off, I was just working on random things. You know, I actually toyed with the idea of throwing this away and starting the head all over again.
Really?
Really, I wasn't feeling it, and I'm going to try to make myself not do that. I've done it before in the past with episodes of shows like this, like Modeling on the Fly, where I get fed up with something and I'll pitch it, but I'm going to try not to do that.
What is it that you don't like?
Well, I'm not sure that we're following the shape very well. There's some rounding across the top of the head that we don't really have, but I'm going to try to coax it out of the shape, and if it doesn't exactly match up, in the end, this will be a game model anyway, and I think it's still going to be all right. So let's see, a couple of things here. Let's grab these edges, and we need to turn on edge constraints. Now, I always leave these on and it ends up biting me later, but let's slide this up to get that kind of lined up and sort of out of the way. Let's switch over to vertices, and we're going to grab this little vertex here and pull that up. Now, this great big disc is in my way. That's kind of irritating. So let's get out of sub-object mode. We'll grab this little thing and just slide it off to the side here. We'll put it back later. And see, this is a case in point of what I was talking about, what I was worried about at the very beginning of the show, in that Jamie's here, she's just not talking.
I'm watching. It's very interesting to see.
She's watching and learning, folks, but we have to remind Jamie that that's not why she's here. No, that's great.
I'm not here to learn. I'm here to keep you entertained.
I'm just giving her a hard time. Eventually, she's going to quit taking that, though, and you're probably going to hear the sounds of violence. So, when that happens, my apologies. I probably deserve it. Now, let's see. I'm going to make a split here. And we should probably go ahead and connect it all the way out. So let me go ahead and move the camera. And we'll at least run it up here to the front end of this thing. Now, the reason I did that is because I want to grab this vertex right here. And we're going to slide it out a little bit. Now, I still have edge constraints on. So you see what I'm outlining. Just kind of grabbing this panel and making sure that things line up pretty well. Now, I've got a great photo of the side of this, so we can get an idea of the elevations and how things all go. What I'm going to end up having to do is probably make a tiny little extrusion here, or perhaps a second edge, so that I can get some sort of differentiation in overall size. But here's what I'm not liking. I'm not liking this radical change in direction of my edges. That's kind of bugging me. So,
are you trying to get it to follow the black outline more?
Yes and no. I would like for it to follow the black outline, but that's not always the best way to go. In fact, sometimes that can really bite you if you get too involved in trying to make things line up with edges that you see on the model. Sometimes you can start messing about with curvature and it makes it harder to follow what's really going on. Sometimes, not all the time.
That's where my problem is, because I want to follow exactly on what everything is.
And in a case like this, because this model, the real thing, is pretty planar. Every little edge is, in a lot of cases, not every case, it's a flat face. So to a certain degree, you probably could do that. I'm just going to kind of go with my gut here and say that we should probably start flattening this out, getting these edges lined up just a little bit better than they are. Now, what I would like to do is create some sort of difference in elevation here for this one panel. And basically, the panel I'm trying to define is right here. I could probably zoom us in on it a little bit so we can all see it. It's this little raised area right in here. So you can see I've got the edge in place to define that. A couple of different ways we could do this. One would be a quick extrusion. So let's give that a try and just see how it works. I'll press F2 so we can see the polygons that I have selected. And if I do this over here in perspective, it'll be easier to see what's going on. We can go ahead and shade the model all the way up. And let's see here. Now, what about the bottom? We could probably extrude that out. But I'm not going to. Let's just leave it just like it is. Now let's extrude just a tiny little bit, and our extrusion height is currently set to 2, which is not bad, but I think I'm going to set it a little bit lower, so we'll pull that down just a tiny bit, because really all I'm looking for is a visible difference in height. I'm not looking for anything crazy out there. So let's turn off our wireframe. Yeah, and you can see the panel now, so that's good. Now, let's see, the next thing we could do, we could bring out this funny little raised area. Now, somewhere in all of my reference photos, and I'm sure it's not in this folder, it's over here in my pictures of the head, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, we've got a picture. Now, you could quote me on this if you wanted to. I think this is the same model, actually photographed years prior in another setting. It may not be. I don't know. We could probably compare the two images and double check. But they're supposedly both studio models. Obviously they had several models to make the movie. But I want to make this funny raised area that runs over to where that disc was. And for all intents and purposes, that's just a box. It's a little rounded, it's kind of prettier, but it's just a box. So what I'll do is I'll go to the side view. Let's make everything nice and transparent so we can kind of see through. And our image here is going to only be partially helpful in the placement of this. So it's one of those areas where we're going to have to sort of deviate away from what the image plane is telling us to do, which is fine. That, of course, never bothers me too much. Hopefully it doesn't bother you either. At this point, you're hopefully getting kind of comfortable with just randomly slinging polygons around like you know what you're doing. All right. So how's your day gone, Jamie?
It's been pretty good.
Yeah? Why don't you tell us about it? Give us something to listen to, other than me yammering, because I'm sure if you guys are watching this show, you've more than once thought, and probably even since this episode has started, you've probably thought to yourself, God, I wish he'd shut up for like 5 minutes.
Oh, no, you're teaching. If you were quiet, then they'd all go, wait, what did he just do?
Yeah, that's probably true.
Isn't that how that works?
We could go back and forth with that point for a while. We're not going to. We're going to assume that they want me to shut up because they want to hear from the pretty lady.
I'm on a recording. How do they know if I'm a pretty lady?
Well, they'll have to take my word for it.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't lie to them, really. Ever. About anything.
Well, it's okay. He's right. I am.
There you go. All of this is 100% true.
This is all, yes.
Okay, now let's see. Let's shade everything up, see how far out that box kind of sticks. Because we have to kind of get a little clever here, because this box is, and it's not just perfectly aligned to the world. It's got a little bit of rotation to it. So let's see here. What I would probably do if it was me.
Oh, and it is you, so...
Yeah, if I was the one modeling this, and hey, it is, let's grab the pivot, and let's see here, if I start to move the pivot and then hit the snap key, can I snap it out here to one of these vertices? And it turns out I can, which is really cool. Now let's grab the rotate tool, and I could just rotate that back a little bit. And that's not perfectly lining up, but let's take a look. So it needs to be. So we've got the basis down, but of course, a box is a simple object, so we can reshape this however we need to. The bottom line is we need it to fit up underneath this plate and still be kind of lined up with what's going on with this little plate that we just lined out a second ago. Let's do a couple of things. Let's come back over here. And I don't really want to move the thing, but it is kind of in the way all of a sudden. So let's see. Let me grab the material editor. Hello, material editor, M key. Thank you. It just took a second to conjure up. Let's drop that onto the box so that the box goes transparent. And it looks like, yeah, it looks like we've got kind of a discrepancy in the drawing where we have two separate elevations. So we're just going to have to kind of interpret for ourselves. What we do know is that this is going to fit pretty much underneath this greater plate and then hang out just a little bit. And then the plate that we just extruded a few moments ago is going to fit snugly right underneath it. So if we can keep all of that straight in our head, then, well, I guess good for us.
It'll make this a lot easier.
It'll make this a whole lot easier. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to rotate this. Let's see, in which axis? Okay, I hit undo, and my undos are a little bit slow right now because my DirectX shaders are activated, so you got to bear with me just a little bit. I also have angle snapping on, which may not be a good thing. That could be biting me a little bit, but we're going to try to go with it anyway. Now let's see here. Let me grab my vertex. Oh, this is just a box. Okay, that's fine.
Does the box have to go all the way to the edge?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I need to pull it out to the edge, which is what I'm about to do now. I'm going to change the parameters of the box to increase its width. Now, that's also extending in this direction too, which is alright. I'll deal with that presently. Now, let's see. How are we moving this thing? I don't want to move it in view mode. I would like to move it in local mode. And turn off snapping, because that's always fun. We'll slide this back a little bit. It's just going to be a little bit of back and forth, kind of finessing it until it seems to fit. That's the wrong object. Don't move that. So give that a second to undo, and we'll just pop over to this thing. And that's pretty close. Okay, so now let's come back in here to this object. Let me hit F4 so I can see my wires again. And let's switch over to vertices. Now, if I was really careful here, I should... Oh, we still have edge constraints on, so we don't want that. I told you, I leave it on and it's going to bite me sooner or later.
Exactly.
So we'll turn that off, and I'm just going to slide this down. We're going to try to use the side view, excuse me, to keep things as lined up as I possibly can. So something about like so. Grab this next one. We'll slide it down too. Now I'm probably, I'm certainly breaking the planarity of the model as I do this. It's no longer going to be perfectly planar. If that's not a problem, if it doesn't look like it's painfully obvious, then I'm not going to worry too much about it. Now let's see. Let's fit that there. Grab these guys and fit them right down here. Jump back out to perspective and take a look at what we've done, if we've broken it, and if we need to apologize to anybody. Not quite. We're close to the point of apologies. Now, here's an interesting thing. It looks like we actually need like an extra edge of division here. We need to separate. Let me get that box out of the way for just a moment. We could just grab it. Let's get out of sub-object mode. I want you. Hello. Thank you very much. Let's go to display and hide selected. Get that out of the way for a moment. What we need is an extra edge to run all the way down here so that we can actually create the gap between the plate and this little raised area. So let's see, when we extruded that, did we make way for such a gap? And the answer is absolutely no, we did not, which is great. I love it when I do stuff like that. All right, easy enough to fix. Here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to go get my cut tool. My great big cutting laser. Actually, I guess the cutting laser would be the slice plane. But we're going to get this thing anyway, and I'm just going to slice right across the bottom as far as it'll let me. And we'll cut across here, and across here, and all the way out to the front, and across there, and we'll just go all the way. And we won't leave this edge hanging either. We'll make sure everything gets snipped all the way across. Okay, now with that done, is this all making sense so far?
Well, I've missed the first few lessons, so
You're a little bit behind, but everybody knows that you're a secret ultra modeler and that you've been doing this for years. You just don't want to tell anybody about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a modeling shark.
Yeah, she's sharking us. Totally sharking us. Okay, so we'll just nuke out these faces, and we're going to have to get a little bit fancy, schmancy, clever here. Let's switch over to edges, and like so. Just going to shift drag these upward. Get that pretty close. Okay, now let's grab our target weld, and I'll just weld. Oh, I guess it would help if I was at the vertex level. Now we'll grab target weld and tack these guys together.
Oh, isn't that just nifty?
It is. I mean, that is the very definition of nifty. If you look up nifty in the dictionary, that's what you're going to get. All right. Now let's switch over to edges, and we'll grab this edge, and this edge, and this edge, and hopefully Max won't complain too much when I click the bridge button. Cool. That fills that right in. Now we have a gap between the two surfaces, which is exactly what I wanted. So now let's go back over to display, and we will unhide all and gravy. That's pretty much what I was looking for. So now let's go back to our reference element. This box, and it's going to end up not being a box. I'm going to end up having to grab the vertices and reshape it a little bit. It almost looks like it tapers a little, but, and I don't mean in this direction. I mean as you go from this face back toward the head, it looks like it maybe expands a little, but it's hard to tell. It could just be the camera angle. The point is, we need to get this little plate edge lined up with the box or vice versa, and then we need to make all this stuff overlap. I've actually been thinking, pondering, considering that this piece should be broken off, that we need to pull this off the model and make it something entirely separate, and that might be a better way to go. In fact, that was one of the reasons, that was one of the excuses I was going to give myself for wanting to just start the whole thing over again.
Because you can't take it off now?
Oh, sure I can. I just didn't want to. I was being picky, kind of whiny,
Oh, so like normal.
And this will probably be the last time that Jamie joins us. I hope you guys have enjoyed having her on the show.
Aww.
Hope it's been fun.
Aww. See, this is the reason why he doesn't have people in here very often, because he can dish it out, but he can't take it.
Yes. See, and she just continues to
amaze you with my superior intellect.
That's right. You're very much working hard to make this the season finale of her appearances on the show.
I'm going to get rave reviews, and they're going to request that I come back.
Rave reviews?
Yes. Just like on the radio show.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually.
People ask, where am I? Why is she not on?
Actually, let's not do that. Let's hit OK and undo that. I got a different way I want to do this.
So what were you're just trying to move it?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways to go about what I'm trying to do here. I should have just grabbed all of the edges, but let me just see if I can hit detach, and let's just detach this to an object, hit OK, and awesome. So now it is its own thing. Okay, now with that done, let's see if we can grab the object, shade up our view so we can kind of see what's going on. And let's see, it's Z is currently set to 130, 103. Let me do it this way. Let's just grab you. I see, I lose track, and I keep thinking I'm in Maya, and I'm not. So we'll link this to the actual head geometry. Then I'm going to move it up and out of the way. And because I parented it later on, I can just snap it right back into location, which will be, of course, very convenient. Okay, now we need to kind of start reassembling things on this object. So let me hit 2. I'm going to grab some edges here, and I'm just going to shift drag these out a little bit. Excuse me. And let's see here. I'll go back to our mighty target weld. Just tack these guys in. So are you a Star Wars fan, Jamie?
I do like Star Wars.
You do like Star Wars?
I wasn't a big fan of the newer movies.
Wow, you're gonna open up like the huge can of worms.
They were good.
They
Just
were good.
weren't. They weren't
yeah.
like you see the original ones and
They were good for what they were.
Yes.
But they didn't have. I think a lot of people would agree. Not everybody, but a lot of people would agree. They didn't really have that Star Warsy kind of feel.
I just felt like there was something a little bit missing. That's all.
Yeah.
But they were good. It wasn't like I hated them. I was like, oh, I guess I'd expected a little something different. That's all.
I expected my childhood to remain pure and intact. And
Instead, it was.
Instead, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It just wasn't.
So.
That's okay. What are you gonna do, right?
Just some characters that should never have been made. That's all.
Good old Jar Jar.
Gee, how'd you know I was talking about?
Who could she have possibly been talking about? Is there anybody but Jar Jar she could have meant by that?
Oh. Made my soul die a little.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that maybe, possibly, could have, would have, should have been done differently, but we'll never know.
Yes, they never asked my opinion, so.
Yeah, I didn't get the memo. They weren't all on the phone with me going, "Hey Zach, what would make the perfect Star Wars movie?"
I'm sure you could have helped.
Actually, I like Star Wars, but I'm not like your Star Wars convention uber geek who would have been like, well, it's completely inconsistent for Anakin Skywalker to have had a head or whatever.
Because that's exactly what it's like.
Now, I will say this: when the DVD versions of the original movies came out, they made a few changes. Like, what was it? They changed the order of. Like when Han Solo shoots in the cantina, so that suddenly Greedo shoots first, and that's like an ongoing war with a lot of people as to whether or not that's right. The only thing that came out of that extra version of the movie that really kind of got under my skin was how they replaced the guy who originally played Anakin Skywalker with Hayden Christensen. That old man who played the dying, aging Darth Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
He was completely taken out of the shot. And I just thought that was really disrespectful to somebody who did a really good job.
Yeah, it doesn't make that much sense. There's really no need for that.
Just so that Hayden Christensen he could mug for an extra 6 seconds in the Star Wars movies. Like any of us could forget that version of Anakin Skywalker. Like it's that easy to let go of.
No, unfortunately not.
I hate sand. It gets everywhere. Okay, so anyways, back to sort of what I'm doing here. Let's connect these edges up.
To the actual topic at hand.
Yeah,
Here
we're
are.
actually working a little. Really, all I'm doing is just reassembling this wall here, which I probably don't have to do. It's probably not absolutely critical that I do it. I just feel it's nice and consistent to work this way. And let's see, this looks like it needs to be sealed up as well. In fact, I didn't even realize that was disconnected. Now, let's get out of here. I'm going to hide this thing again. Make it go away. And wow, there's a different number of edges from top to bottom. That's really cool. In a sort of annoying kind of way. Okay. Well, we'll just put a new edge in. Now, do I still have edge constraints on? Anyone? No. Now I do. Now let's see here. Let me just slide all these guys backwards a little bit. And then we can go down and grab our cut tool. At least I thought we could.
Do you have to take the edge constraints off again?
Nah, it's just... It probably thought I clicked on something that I didn't want to click on. Alright, that looks just about like it worked. That looks a little weird. What's going on there? Don't know what it is, but it's about to get blowed up. let's see here. Let's make sure edge constraints are off before I do anything crazy. Yeah, there's an extra face back there. That's no good. Whatever. We'll make it explode. Okay, now some target welding. Put all this back down into place. And reattach. Is that guy already attached? No, he needs to go right there. And that just leaves this guy. Well, we could just grab these two edges and one bridge later. Everything's all filled in. Okay, now obviously that is not what I would call, excuse me, planar. But we could probably just come in. Oh, make sure you don't move stuff by accident. That's something I always fight that when I jump back and forth between Max and Maya, because I've been using Maya all day, that you can accidentally move without having your mouse over the gizmo. Alright, and let's hit make planar, so it kind of flattens that out. In fact, we might want to just include these guys too. Switch back over to vertices and a little bit of cleaning here. I'm just going to aim down the surface and just eyeball it. There we go. Nice. Now, you, way up here, this guy, we kind of abandoned and left behind. Like George Lucas with the original vision. We could take this and set it over to parent mode, and then just set everything back to 0, and it flies down into place once again.
Like it was never gone.
Like it was never gone, exactly. Well put. Okay, well, let's see here. If I hide my little edges here, we can take a look at what's going on. So the geometry's being cleaned up a little bit in terms of how it's working. That's good. Let's unhide all real quick. And then what I'm going to do is grab this surface. Let's show our edges again just so we can kind of get a clearer idea what's going on. Let's see here. We need to, well, what we need to do is come back over here to our picture. So these two surfaces, the box that we have here and the little piece underneath, it looks like they stay relatively planar to one another, but I'm going to go out on a limb. Do we have like a dead-on frontal shot that doesn't have a big cannon in the way? And that would be bloody helpful. Okay, that does look pretty flat. And then you can see this is pretty flat too, and then it tapers way in. So that's pretty deep right there. So that's good, because if you take a look at ours, I don't think ours really goes that deep just yet, but more importantly, what ours doesn't do is ours isn't nice and parallel to it. So we need to kind of work with that. What I'm going to do real quick is take this box and go ahead and convert it to an editable poly so that we can start grabbing its sub-objects and moving those around. We could, for instance, grab this edge and slide it. Well, if we had the right object selected, it would probably go a whole lot more smoothly. I want this guy. I want this to be an editable poly. I'll just slide this back in a little bit. Now, here's where we got to get a little on the fancy side. Just one more time. Well, I'm going back and forth with whether or not I want to hide the thing again, but let's see if I can get away without doing it. Let me grab polygons, and I want this little strip of polys just under here, and we'll shade everything back up, and let's see, that's already underneath pretty nicely. Let's see, if I make that planar, what do we get? And slide it all down, and could even, if we want to get really fancy, we could probably rotate it a little bit and just make sure it fits just neatly up underneath that box. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Now let's switch over to edges, and I'm going to start with this edge all the way back to here, and let's, okay, we're still in view mode, we're going to slide that out. And let's grab this one, we're going to slide this out. So we're basically trying to make these all nice and flat.
alongside the little green box we got up there. Okay, now we can go over to polygons and grab all these polys and make them planar. That's pretty close. Maybe too much of a gap right there. It might be just a little bit much. So we could carefully grab those again and just stick our camera really close in here where we can see what's going on, and then just snug those right up. And that looks pretty good. Now, on this image, yeah, I guess it'd just be
really fuzzy.
Yeah, that's really fuzzy. Yeah, you don't really see a seam where the change in direction takes place, so I won't worry about trying to make a crease or a secondary edge or anything. We could probably just leave it just as it is. Let's hit F4 to get rid of our edges, and that's really starting to come along.
I think it looks good.
Mm-hmm. We're going to need to round out some of these edges. They're still razor sharp, and that's always a giveaway that you've got a problem. But I'm trying to avoid doing that until we get just a little bit further along.
Makes sense.
Just because I don't want to fight the geometry later on. Now, what I can do, and I might, it's one of those things where it's like I'll do it now, and then later on I'll probably regret it and change my mind and wish I hadn't done it.
Uh-oh, what's that?
That pretty much defines my existence. Let's see. Let's grab this edge all the way back to here, and probably even all the way back to here, at least for now. And we'll run a quick chamfer operation. And let's pull the amount way down. And it's going to do some wacky things right here. You just kind of have to accept that and say, okay, fine.
See, now I know that everyone else has followed these for a while. I do not. What's chamfer edges?
It's going to take a single edge and split it off into two. It's kind of like a bevel.
Okay.
Here, I'll grab a really obvious edge where it makes a whole lot more sense. We grab like right here and hit chamfer.
Okay.
So it just splits it off. But you got to take a look at what it does over here where we only had one edge leading into it.
It causes...
Makes a little triangle, which, I mean, that's good, but it can also... It just means there's something else you got to clean up.
Okay.
Because over here it's made some nasty geometry, which is easy to fix. We just need to know that it's there. So let's see. Let's go over to vertices. Let's grab a target weld. And let's see here. Let's just weld this guy over here. And, whoa, zoomed in a little close there. Probably weld this guy right here. Actually, let's not do that. Undo that for me. Thank you. Let's go the other way. Let's take this guy and put him out here. And then we're going to get the cut tool, which is hiding from me. We're just going to cut from here to here. So make a little triangle down there. Now, if we turn off our wires, we should have a nice crisp edge right down there for our shading. Now, because we pulled all these edges out, we probably have some funky indentation going on here with these vertices. So let me turn off the cut tool. Let's grab these verts. And I probably shouldn't have grabbed them all at once, but I did already, so we'll just try to work with it.
Yes, because deselecting.
You know, it has been so much fun having you on this show, and I really wish we could do it again sometime, but I don't know. I think our schedule's a little filled. We're running out of room, tolerance, what have you. Let's see. Let's do stuff. Okay, let's turn our edges back on so I can see what in the world's going on here, and I need to do a little more target welding.
Oh, come on. I keep you from talking to yourself.
Absolutely, because when you're not here, I am talking to myself.
Yeah.
That's boring for everybody. I have to gripe about Star Wars alone.
How much fun is that?
Oh,
I mean...
gosh. Well, I mean, unfortunately, I would do that anyway.
Yes.
Like, whether or not I was recording this video, I spend a lot of my time, unfortunately, griping about Star Wars. Okay, now let's see here. I'm going to do something. Let's grab this and switch over to the scale tool. I'm going to widen out this little gap, but I got to go edge by edge to do it. So grab you. I'll just push that out. Have you push that out. I should have made my chamfer a little wider, but I didn't. I'll just clean it up after the fact. And then we could probably... let's just leave that alone for now. If it needs more adjusting later, then I'll do more adjusting later. For now, let's just call it. So that's coming along pretty well. It's not... there's a couple of funny shading anomalies in here. Like you can see this funny... It looks like it's dented. And usually, if it looks like it's dented, it's because it's dented. So I need to grab this guy and... I wonder something. Let's see. If we go you, and you, and don't move anything, or scale it accidentally, thank you, what would happen if we just nailed our Make Planar button right there? Wow, some scary stuff. Okay, and then we could grab these guys and make them planar once again.
Makes it kind of look sharp edge.
Yeah, we'll have to fix that later. Now let's try something else. Let's turn on edge constraints and grab these faces once again and hit Make Planar one more time.
Ooh.
And then maybe that was a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't do that ever again for any reason. Oh well, I wanted to give it a try. Okay, well, let's see here. Let's hit F4. Let's get out of sub-object mode. Actually, that cleaned up a lot of the denting. It looks a little funny back there. But
yeah, like someone kicked it.
yeah, I'm going to go with it for now. What we may end up having to do is break this panel off, very similarly to how we broke this panel off earlier, and come up with some way to smooth it out, add some more detail, or maybe even NURM smooth it. But that'll be something for a little bit down the road. We're almost done here. We've actually kind of run a little bit over our time quota, as some of you might have noticed. So I'm just trying to see if there's anything else we can fit in really quickly. So let's see. We could probably do something with these this cutaway shape here. Now we're already 37 minutes in, and I've been told that I make these videos too long and that people are going to start sending me nasty emails if I don't quit it. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick my thumb against my nose and waggle my fingers at those people for just 1 second so that I can jump over to vertex mode. This time I'm going to turn edge constraints back on for just a moment. Because right now, I think what we've done has been really productive, but it just doesn't feel like we've done that much. So, I'm going to grab all of this, slide it back, and kind of iron this out a little bit.
I'm trying to understand why they think they're too long.
Oh, I'm making that up. Don't pay any attention to that. Oh, wait, I'm still on the mic. They can hear me say that.
Yes.
Darn it. Okay, so now, boom, let's grab these two faces, and we're going to do an extrusion. Yeah, that's fine. Whichever way you want to do it's okay. And let's jump back to vertices. This time, make sure edge constraints are off, because that would be annoying. And slide this here, slide this here. Turn edge constraints back on for just a moment, and we'll pull these down a little bit. Okay. Now obviously that needs to be cleaned up just a bit. So let's turn on edge constraints yet again. We'll slide this over, we'll slide this over. And really what we're going for here is to make this outer edge pretty much planar with what's going on out here. Also, it'd probably be a good idea for us to kill off edge constraints for just a moment. Grab these polys and make them nice and planar. Okay. All right. Now, we're not quite finished. Let's grab these guys and we'll do an inset. Save it about there. Click OK. We'll do a negative extrusion. That's fantastic, and then we'll slide that up so it doesn't drop down quite so much. Then we'll quickly come over here and delete out this face, and this face, and this face. Let's switch back over to polys, and in the x-axis, we're just going to start zeroing things out. So that'll snap everybody back over to the central axis line, which is good. And in just a couple of quick motions, we've basically got the visor at the front of the head. What are you going to point out? Your hand started to fly up. What's on your mind?
No, it just looks like the spot that you just did right here might be in a little bit further.
Might be in a little bit further.
Do you see the little, when you turn it just right?
Oh, you
can
see like the little
line.
extra edge there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be. I'm not going to stress that too much. I'm going to wait until the point where I'm going to start beveling some of these edges, which is a little ways down the road. See, because we don't want to keep all these razor sharp edges either.
Right.
And if you take a look, we got all kinds of little tiny detail plates and armor, and if we jump out of here, and well, this should be a good shot. There's all kinds of things we need to add. As a matter of fact, this picture's a pretty good one. It looks almost like these might not be perfectly planar to one another anyway. So for now, we're not going to worry about it.
Okay.
Later on, as we start to add more detail, we can clean that up. But we've got the basis for that visor, that sort of windshield-like area into play. So there have been some good changes to the head tonight. Let's grab this, we'll kick it in just a little bit, and I think that is going to wrap things up for this episode of Modeling on the Fly. So I'd like to thank Jamianne for joining us this evening.
You're very welcome. Glad to have been able to come out and watch and learn.
That was great. Great having you. Hope to have you again, even though yeah, we're gonna have to talk about some of the things you can and can't say on these videos, but we'll do that after. Right. We'll do that after the break.
Okay.
So thank you all for watching. I'd also like to throw out a very special thank you to all of our member sponsors, because really it's you guys who make videos like this possible at all. And I will see you all on the next Modeling on the Fly. Take it easy.